You are listening to the SDSU podcast, presented by the East Village Times, with your host, Andre Hagverdian. Welcome, listeners, back to another episode of the SDSU podcast. I'm your host, Andre Hagverdian, joined by two of our EVT colleagues, Chris Spiering and Bryant Thursby. Chris is our lead basketball writer, and basketball season is around the corner. Bryant obviously has helped with some football podcasts. He covered our softball team and will again this year, among a variety of things. What's going on, guys?
Nothing much. Been a good night so far.
Yeah, just watching some NBA and ready to talk some SDSU.
Yeah, NBA starts tonight as we're recording this on Tuesday night. But college basketball is about to start as well. And technically, with the exhibition or scrimmage games, however you want to call it, it has really started. So this is our basketball preview episode as we kind of break down, what we're seeing or we plan to see or expect to see with San Diego State basketball. They played UCLA in an open scrimmage last week. Chris, you were there covering the game. Bryant and I were both there, not as media, but in the crowd. I guess I'll start with you, Chris. What was your overall takes, impressions of that performance?
Um, well, tale of two halves, obviously. Did not expect SDSU to, come out the gates that slow. It's been an issue for them, the past couple of years. But even in a scrimmage, didn't expect that. But once they got settled in, the offense was smooth. Was excited to see a couple guys. I got some guys like names highlighted on the stat sheet here. Some guys that impressed and whatnot. So we can get into that in a little bit. But overall, obviously was impressed with the second half. UCLA definitely was into the game. Sitting right behind the bench, just listening to all the members of the team, whether it was the coaching staff or the players or the assistants and the medical team, all of it. They were all into it. They were as into it as you can get really in terms of a scrimmage. But yeah, it was a great game. Obviously, wish SDSU would have played a little bit better in the first half, but yeah, a lot of good things to see coming out from it. That's for sure.
What about you, Bryant?
Definitely was encouraged coming out of the game, personally. As Chris noted, tale of two halves. As we know, San Diego State for the last couple of years has kind of come out flat in the first half, in a good amount of games, which was not the best to see. But I thought once the Aztecs started settling in a little bit, especially defensively, putting more pressure on the ball, getting more rebounds, getting out on the fast break, playing with pace, it looked a lot better for San Diego State. Obviously, as Chris said, we'll get into more talking points about the game
Mm-hmm.
and players that we all thought maybe made an impression, players that we probably were a little underwhelmed by. But first thing is Reese Waters is back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see him healthy, looking good. Miles Bird, I mean, he had missed practice. We weren't even sure if he was going to play. Was he going to start? Was he going to play limited minutes? I mean, I think he played a good 20 minutes and looked healthy. He didn't make a lot of shots, but he looked healthy. And obviously, Magoon was out um, due to that offseason knee surgery. Coach Dutcher said, I think he's kind of cleared for 5-on-0, like non-contact activities, and they hope to have him by maybe mid-November, and hopefully before the Players Era tournament. But yeah, I guess I was surprised UCLA went for it. Playing Donovan Dent 36 minutes. Mick Cronin talked after the game that they got what they came here for. They got to see their team in a hostile environment. He even said he was happy that San Diego State came back in the game so that his team could get a little tested at the end of the game. So like that, I mean, you're right. They did get what they wanted. Plus, they got I think $90,000 from San Diego State. But if you want to dig deeper into some of the individual guys you were talking about, Chris, you want to go through that?
Yeah, and just to keep going off what you were saying, yeah, you Corona was talking about how San Diego State set kind of like a tone in terms of Southern California play, right?
Yeah.
He alluded to the fact that he knows that how what SDSU means to at least the West Coast. But some of the names, yeah, that I was obviously Reese Waters, right? Going 7 for 13, scoring 19 points. A couple other guys that stood out to me was Tay Simmons, Jeremiah Odin, LZ Harrington, and then I also circled Farrell Compton. Not in like a much of a positive way for Farrell because he fouled out, but we'll get
Yeah.
into that. But obviously, just right off the bat, talking about Reese, obviously it was a big moment for him. The crowd definitely was loud when he got his name introduced, before the game started. Um, so it was definitely an emotional night for him. He definitely was the main reason why SDSU was able to make their run a little bit in the second half. Um, he can do it all. He can score on all three levels. He played a little ISO ball. Hit a three. Um, so seeing him play well, um, he just cramped up a little bit at the end there, so that was a little bit of a scare, but he's okay. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to hear you guys' thoughts a little bit on Reese.
Last year, I wrote a preview article for Sidelines San Diego State. And in the preview article, this was before knowing Reese's injury. Um, I said that Reese Dixon Waters was going to win Mountain West Player of the Year. That is how I feel about him. And Reese Dixon Waters coming back to the team this year is massive because something that San Diego State didn't really have last year too much was that guy that you could just give the ball and say, go get a bucket. Go get a bucket. And that's Reese Dixon Waters' game. He can score at all three levels. He can score out of the post. He can drive to the basket. We know how much he loves that mid range. And having somebody like that and seeing how well he produced and played against a tough opponent in UCLA with some really quality wing defenders, Sky Clark, Donovan Dent, their entire wing backcourt for the most part, and having a good game and an efficient shooting game is going to be huge for San Diego State, I think, in this upcoming season.
Yeah, I mean, he can make tough shots. He can make contested shots. Maybe the only guy on the team that could do that well. And they missed him last year, and that's something that they're going to have this year. Um, Looking forward, I'm curious to see how the rest of his game has expanded. Like he's not, not very high in assists. Um, isn't the great like the top end defensive player. So I'm curious to become a Mountain West Player of the Year. It's not just more than scoring, and I think I'm curious to see where he's kind of evolved the rest of his game this year to the point where you watch a San Diego State game and you go, he's the best player on the court, and I think he can get there. It's just I'm curious to see where his game has evolved in that aspect. Um, but it's good to see him out there. He's big. He has size. So like when you're playing guards that are small, he can post them up. He can take it to the basket. He can shoot. He can play a pick and roll. So yeah, it's great to have him back.
Yeah, as Bryant, yeah, as you said earlier, he's going to be kind of one of those guys that's going to have to bail a team out a little bit, on some of those offensive possessions. The hope is that that doesn't happen too often, but like you said, he's going to be that guy that when the offense is struggling, he's going to need to set the tone and get a couple baskets and paired alongside Bird when Bird is back in those starter minutes and in his groove. That's going to be a fun duo to watch, especially because they can just do it all. Speaking of do it at all, Jeremiah Odin, he was actually one of the guys that helped get the scoring started early in the first half. When they were struggling, he got a few buckets. Um, but what I noticed was that he scored 6 points. He had 2 blocks, had a steal, had an assist, had 3 rebounds. Hit a free throw, hit a 3-pointer. So he really was in every category, in that scrimmage. And I think that his role, I don't think many predicted that his role was going to be as big as what I think it's going to be now. Even though it was only one game, I think that he's kind of proven that, with his veteran presence. He's been around. This is his fourth program, so he's going to be one of those guys. I don't believe he starts, but I think he's going to be that sixth man off the bench, in that front court, giving minutes and time off to Magoon and Miles, but Miles Heidi. But yeah, I was really impressed with Odin. I believe that he was a big reason offense got settled down in that first half. And I wanted to hear you guys' thoughts on him as well.
Yeah, with Jeremiah Odin watching the game and everything, I wasn't too impressed with him, but I wasn't disappointed either. I wasn't disappointed either. I think Jeremiah Odin did what I think he's going to do the whole year. He's going to be kind of like JCJ last year. JCJ last year wasn't all that impressive, but he wasn't disappointing either. He's a quality rebounder, going to give those effort minutes, going to make those effort plays, and he's going to be a defender. And that's something that he kind of has been throughout his career at Wyoming, at DePaul, at these programs. He's kind of been that guy. He's not going to be the number two, number three, or even number four scoring option, but he's going to be, for lack of a better term here or a better player, he's going to be the Draymond Green for San Diego State, where he's not going to be the scorer. He's not going to, do all the flashy things, but he's going to do those little things that you need on a winning team.
Yeah, I mean, he told us his greatest strength was his adaptability, his versatility, and I think that showed off. He's not flashy, as I think kind of what both of you are saying, but he'll stuff the stat sheet, but he'll also do things that don't show up in a stat sheet. And you need great teams need guys like him who aren't out there to score 20 points, to do the little things. So yeah, I thought he was good. I mean, I think he even Chris, he may be starting while Magoon before Magoon comes back, so he may get 5 or 6 starts under his belt at the four
Right. The
before
first, yeah.
Magoon is back fully healthy and in the starting lineup. So yeah, I do think he plays more than I think maybe more people expected.
Yeah, which brings us to Farrell Compton. Obviously, talking about the starting lineup. Farrell Compton, 5 fouls, continuing to do what he did last year, and playing a little too hard, a little too many ticky-tack fouls, too being a little too aggressive. What were your thoughts on Compton in that game, Chris?
Yeah, the fouls definitely stood out right away, but he was really aggressive on the offensive end. He can definitely finish at the paint in the rim or in the rim or sorry, at the oh my God, I'm totally tripping right now.
At the
Sorry.
rim.
At the
Yeah,
rim.
I'm totally tripping, guys. Sorry about that. At the rim. But yeah, he's definitely a force, that's for sure. But yeah, too aggressive on the defensive end. He only played obviously 12 minutes because of the fouls, but he was able to get 6 points. He did turn over the ball twice. Was able to block a shot too. So he was able to make the free throws. That was something he wasn't able to do last year, right? He was able to hit the free throws. Definitely struggled on that end. But yeah, I was definitely impressed in the short time that he had played, offensively. But yeah, dude, he's definitely got to tone it back a little bit on the defensive side. That's for sure.
To me, he's a wild card. Like I think this team reaches its ceiling if Farrow becomes a great player. Um, Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch any Swish Pro-Am games this summer, but just on social media, there was a big talk about how Farrow took a big leap and how he had expanded his game. I didn't necessarily see it against UCLA, although he did foul out pretty quickly. Um, but to me, the jury is still out on him whether reaches that ceiling. Um, because you would think, I think for this team to be really good, you need him as a starting five over Heidi,
I would
um,
think so.
to help the offense. But at this point, I don't know if he starts over Heidi because of all the other things that go into being a starting center to winning. And the jury, for me, I'm still waiting to see him kind of break out and turn into this, great player. I mean, he's still young. I'm not saying that's not going to happen, but I haven't seen it yet. And I'm kind of to me he's a wild card on this team. Um, and I'm curious how he develops over the next month or two in non-conference play.
The ceiling is definitely high with him. And you're
Yeah.
right. I think the team is better if he does end up starting at the five. But like, Dutcher's gonna want the rebounding that comes with Heidi, especially on the offensive side. Um, but yeah, I think the team is gonna soon realize what Farrell is really all about, especially on offense. If he can get the ball in the paint, I don't think there's anybody that can stop him. If he's in his groove, he can really find a way to score. So yeah, he's a potential breakout player. Some people have said it. I've seen it on Twitter. Some people have already in the media have already said
Mhm.
that they think that Farrell can be one of those top five guys in the conference that could be a breakout guy. But he would need to be a starter for that. I don't think that would happen if he's on the bench behind Heidi. But um, yeah, I'm definitely impressed with him. I definitely think that he could be a big part of this team this year.
Yeah, which brings me to you guys kind of brought it up with Heidi, bringing up a talking point I want to talk about. Miles Heidi actually impressed me a good amount in this scrimmage necessarily with his rebounding. He was a very strong rebounder in this scrimmage going up against UCLA, who has two quality bigs with quality size and quality length. I felt like he did a really good job with getting better position. Something that I think Farrow ultimately struggled with in the scrimmage. Was his positioning on rebounds. Sometimes he can just get those because he out just athletes people.
Mhm.
But Heidi, I thought played really well. One thing that's I believe you guys are correct that when Farrell's at its best, this team will be at its best. Because Farrell just brings that energy and that type of athleticism and that shot blocking ability next to Magoon. That Heidi can't really bring. And it's not entirely his fault. He's just not that type of athlete. He's good defensively, but he's not the type of athlete that Compton can be. But Heidi impressed me a lot, and I think Heidi next to Magoon or Compton next to Magoon is a dangerous trio that this team can play in the non-conference and in the Mountain West.
I mean, to me, Heidi is who he is. Um, Rebounding defense, setting screens. You're not going to get much offense out of him. There's really no point in even try to posting him up because he's not good in the post. But the things he does can help you win games. And as we talked about with Jeremiah Oda, not everyone on the court can score 20 points a game. You need guys to do the little things, and he's a guy that does it. And I think that's why he's probably going to be starting at the five. Um, but the offensive ceiling is a little limited when he's out there as a team, as a unit. Um, and you saw that. I mean, their starting five probably had never played a competitive game together. Maybe in the scrimmage and practice against each other. But you had DeGorville, Waters, Odin, BJ Davis, I believe, and Heidi. Was that? I think that was the starting five. Like that was they struggled to move the ball, and that's where a lot of those turnovers came when UCLA just stole the ball, either deflected passes or just stripped a driver of the ball. So um, that's something I think that a more cohesive starting lineup with a healthy team, I think, will help with that.
I think
Absolutely.
Heidi's not going to get those many chances on offense. It's going to have to come from the offensive rebound, or it's going to have to come from a bailout at the end of the shot clock, loose ball or whatnot. But he was 0 for 2. He had two shots, right at the rim. Didn't make either of them. In 26 minutes, he had played the second most minutes of the night. But yeah, his rebounding, especially his offensive rebounding, is going to keep him on the floor. Dutcher's going to want those extra possessions. Um, and
Yeah.
so yeah, it's just a matter of with him just the short opportunities he gets, just converting. If he can just somehow shoot above 50% from the field, just getting those random offensive boards, or sometimes he'll be wide open in the paint, or on the fast break he'll get a dunk and whatnot. Those are going to come, but yeah, for him it's just if he's not rebounding, he's not going to be on the floor. So I do think that Heidi's improving. and you could see it. We saw it a lot last year throughout the season. His point total kind of went up a little bit. He was getting close to 10 rebounds a game. But, with him, if you're getting a 6 point to 8 point with, anywhere from 8 to 10 rebounds a game from Heidi, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our last talking point of the game. Um, what does San Diego State do with these two stud freshmen that they brought in with Tay Simmons and Elsie Harrington?
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
they're
I
gonna play.
legitimately don't know. Like that is both of them impressed against UCLA's eight like best lineup. Both of them impressed. Part of the comeback was Elsie Harrington on the floor and making plays. Tay Simmons doing a good job on the boards, being aggressive. I don't know what Dutcher's going to do with these two freshmen because I think that they've earned minutes, but I just don't know how he's going to manage it.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have, and you're right. Simmons and Harrington both deserve to be on the floor a lot. And there was one moment during the game where I can't remember if Tay got called for the loose ball foul or not, but I think it was their center, Xavier Booker, was switched on to Tay for the short time that he was on the field or on the court, and he tried backing him down, and Tay wouldn't did not let that happen. He's a big body for his size. Former football player. Um, he got 4 rebounds in that game in just under 12 minutes. But yeah, and Elsie is going to be a guy that's going to get a lot of minutes this year. I think he's going to play a minimum of 10 minutes a game. He's going to get a couple shots up. He might even get well more than that, to be honest. But he'll get his shots up. He loves the mid range. That's what he told me. Um, yeah, those two are gonna earn their minutes throughout the season. You could see it, and the depth is going to really show with them because you have Latrell Davis too, who's another backcourt guy that can come out and score easily. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, and
Yeah.
I think they're going to get a little bit more playing time against USD too.
Yeah, and I think Miles Bird, I think you may have asked him, Chris, during media day about how, he came in as a true freshman and he was behind a deep team and had to
Mhm.
sit. And I think he said something along the lines of like, these guys are more ready to play as true freshmen than I was.
Right.
And I think that tells me that he thinks that these guys are going to play. Otherwise, he would probably say, "Oh yeah, they know that they have to wait their turn and sit, and I've given them that advice. I did it." He didn't give that answer. He said these guys are more ready to play, which makes me think that they are ready to play.
Yeah.
I think Harrington plays more than Simmons,
Yeah.
because he's probably a little bit more talented, a higher recruit. Obviously, not that that is always going to mean anything, but I think he's a little bit more talented, fits a role, and I do think Simmons will get some games he won't play, and then some games I think if Dutcher sees that they're getting bullied in the paint, he's going to be like, "Tay, get in there and bully some guys." But I think Harrington will get consistent minutes game by game. Um, but yeah, it is a good problem to have for Dutcher, but you probably will make him stay up late some nights, trying to figure out, who these guys um, should be playing. Now, so a lot of times when you have a really deep team and you're all talking preseason about who's going to play, how are they going to play, it kind of settles itself based on how guys play in game. So we'll see. So, one or two of these guys might really struggle and make get put to the bench. One of these guys may really excel and be better than the other guys and be forced the coaches into playing them. So I think it'll work itself out in the first month or so, but it is, yeah, these guys deserve to play. They're good enough to play as true freshmen.
Yeah, I think it's just funny that Dutcher just decided to just bring clones into the program with Taj and Farrell last year, and now Ozzy and Tay.
Yeah.
I feel like Harrington's just a Taj clone. They play so similar. They really do.
They do.
And Tay and Farrell just seem like Bash brothers.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing I wanted to, if we switch gears to USD, which is the next exhibition game, Dutcher mentioned he's going to have a different starting lineup for this one, and then he's going to decide on who starts game one. What changes do you think is going to be made for the starting lineup in this one?
Probably Miles Bird had to do it.
I think Sean Newman will be put in there, and then I think Farrell will be one of them as well.
Yeah, I agree with Sean Newman over Taj. You can
Hmm.
make the case for Farrow over Miles because that's also another. And then Miles, if he's Miles Bird, if he's healthy. So that's three. Who does Miles Bird start for?
Probably Odin.
You think they go small?
Again, against USD, just trying to like we know
Yeah.
Dutch likes to try things.
Hmm.
And just put some stuff out there and see what works and see if he likes it. So there is a possibility that Dutcher does go small with Bird and then maybe potentially keeps Heidi in the starting lineup at the five and goes Heidi, Bird, um, Reese Dixon
Water
Waters, Sean Newman Jr. And then personally, I would keep Taj in the lineup.
over
Personally,
BJ.
yeah, I would keep Taj in the lineup personally. Um, but you could see him just put Odin in there instead of Taj and have Odin play the four, and then Bird play the three, Dixon play the two, and Sean Newman play the one. But
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting.
Hmm.
What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, you guys kind of nailed it. Yeah, the only change that I think that we know is coming is probably going to be Sean, just because he's one of the older guys, and he didn't start against UCLA, so it kind of just makes sense if the notions that the lineup's going to change. So, but yeah, I'm not sure if Harrington or Simmons will be thrown in there. I doubt it. It wouldn't make much sense to start them just because they're not going to start the regular season. Um, and then Davis probably Latrell Davis probably wouldn't get thrown in there either. So I would say yeah, either Compton or Newman. Those are the two main guys, and then of course Bird. Bird will get thrown back in the starting lineup.
Is there anything specifically that you want to see in that USD game other than, whatever lineup changes are made
I think
from
the
the team?
biggest one. I think we can all agree on just seeing the offense settle down early. I think you know, the offense and what they try to do, comes from the defensive end, right? So it can be tough a little early on, to for them to find that groove. But I would really like to see them, as any team would like to see, scoring early.
Yeah, absolutely. The offense kind of getting into a flow sooner into the game, and not going almost 9 minutes without putting a point on the board. So that would be nice. At the same time, just seeing if this team plays with pace. That's kind of a thing. Like I've been like pondering a little bit. I thought San Diego State played better with pace against UCLA than they did in the half court. So I'm very curious if going into this game against USD, maybe we see San Diego State go with a little bit more pace and try and get out and run a little bit more. Because like we've been saying so far, is this team has a lot of depth. Um, and run with how much depth this team has. I feel like that might be the best way for San Diego State to go about it and be the best versions of themselves is to run a little bit more.
Yeah, they definitely played a lot faster in the second half, even off of makes, which is kind of is an anti-San Diego State thing.
Hmm.
Um, every year, I think Coach Dutcher has said we're going to play faster, and then they don't really do it because they kind of settle in, and I think they have the team this year to actually do it. Whether they keep to it game after game, I don't know. Um, but yeah, I think the offense improvement in this game is going to be needed. Obviously, you step down in competition from UCLA to USD. No offense to the Toreros, but definitely, I think looking for an offensive output will be kind of part of that. Part of the reason why they're playing that exhibition is to do that, and I think. Um, do you? I don't. Do you remember what was their 3-point shooting against UCLA? Did you have
Five
that?
for 23.
Yeah,
What was it?
5 for 23.
Yeah, that's not. What is that? Probably 20,
21%.
21. Yeah, that's gonna have to improve, and I think they're gonna need to shoot better there, and hopefully they'll get better looks, cleaner looks. than they got against a really good defensive team in UCLA. And so that's the stuff I look for.
Yeah, that's also one of them. Shooting better because the team last year struggled a little bit. San Diego State got into the shooting woes in crucial games and in crucial spots. So that was definitely a concern out of the UCLA game, but early season team should be better shooting the ball. Miles Bird should be better shooting the ball. You add Latrell Davis. BJ Davis was a really good shooter last year. You add Reese Dixon Waters to the mix, who naturally has been an elite shooter when he's been healthy, especially that first year with San Diego State before his injury. We saw how good of a shooter he could be. Obviously, Magoon's going to be able to stretch the floor. Team's got guys that can shoot. It's a matter of being consistent now.
I got to get used to saying Dixon Waters again.
It is.
That's what I used to saying just Waters. I know we talked a lot about starting five. Anything you guys want to add on that, or what you think the starting five will end up being once season starts?
Starting five predictions for season starting. I'm going to include Magoon in there when he does come back.
Yeah.
So to start the season, my prediction for the starting five is going to be Heidi at the five, Odin at the four, Bird at the three, Reese Dixon Waters at the two, and then BJ Davis at the one.
That was
With
without Magoon.
without Magoon, and then just replace Odin with
Yeah.
Magoon, and that would be my starting five.
What about you, Chris?
Yeah. It can't be too far off from that. I personally think at some point Newman will get into the starting lineup. I don't know if that's first. The first few games or what. I think that will be BJ. Um, I've heard Taj could potentially be a starter for this team this year. However you look between BJ Davis, Taj, and Sean Newman at the one, can't really go wrong with any of those three. Newman has the experience. Davis has the team experience, and then Taj last year as a freshman um, was one of the best passers on the team last year. So really can't go wrong with any of the three. I think Newman will find his way into the starting lineup. I think it'll be. I don't know if it'll be one of those situations where he'll have to earn it, through playing time or what. But yeah, I could see BJ Davis starting the season against Long Beach State as the one.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go. I think Taj will get start with Waters, Bird, Magoon, and Heidi.
Hmm.
But who knows?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say now that that Heidi is more than likely going to start at the five. I don't think Farrow has proven enough to overcome that, especially last year with Heidi, taking over for JCJ when needed. Um, so
Yeah.
I think it's Heidi's to lose right now. Obviously, Dixon Waters and Bird are going to start. There's no question about that. And then obviously Magoon when he's healthy.
Yeah, which
Lots of depth. Lots of depth.
yeah,
Yeah.
The bench.
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
It's a really good problem to have. And it's kind of hard to have this type of problem in the NIL era of college basketball now.
Mhm.
So the fact that San Diego State and Coach Dutcher, and the rest of the coaching staff has this problem and has as much talent as they do, and good players as they do is definitely a blessing, um, for this team.
I mean, we speaking of NIL, we should not go without mentioning Blenders and Chase Fisher's $5 million for 5 year donation last week, or yeah, last week. $1 million a year for 5 years. That's pretty good NIL money right there for a program that was already doing well, at least for their level, at a non-power level. Um, so I think that's another problem for Dutcher, right? Like everybody knows that there's this money is out there now, and so like I wonder how that's going to impact recruiting or retention when guys are like, I know there's $1 million out there. Um, that's good. That's an interesting question, ponder in another episode. But yeah, we didn't want to go without mentioning that. And obviously, Chase is a SDSU alumni. He's already done a lot of fundraising with the Blenders sunglasses he did for the basketball team, the football team. Um, so yeah, this is just a much bigger step to that, and so we kudos to Chase. I met him at one of the photo shoots for the football glasses last year. Really cool guy. Was very appreciative of us being out there supporting them, writing about them, and yeah, I look forward to definitely seeing what he can do and what other people can join in, other alumni, other companies in San Diego. What do you guys think?
I think Chase Fisher and what he has done for San Diego State as a whole and what he has and what he just did with the donation, everything is a massive step and a much needed step for San Diego State athletics to kind of go that extra mile in this NIL era where, San Diego State's not going to challenge the big dogs of the NILs, the schools of the Midwest, the schools of the South, the Bamas, the Michigans, the Notre Dames, the USCs, even on the West Coast, the Oregons of the West Coast, even UCLA, that San Diego State just faced in an exhibition, but being a little bit more competitive in this NIL space, knowing that San Diego State can get that type of donation money and potentially open other companies and other alumni to want to give back more to the school. And now seeing somebody else do it in Chase Fisher, who went to San Diego State, graduated from there, and built a product based out of Southern California, based out of San Diego.
Yeah, there's really not much more else I could say on top of that. You guys kind of nailed it. It's a new era of sports, especially at the collegiate level. And, this is stuff we're going to have to get used to seeing. A lot of these athletes are going to be making the decision based off money and not necessarily what's, necessarily right for them in terms of the program. But, obviously SDSU getting this type of donation is, it's amazing. And it's going to keep coming. We're getting, just from Fisher, 1 million for the next 5 years, but there's going to be more contributions also. So, it's,
Mhm.
it's a great time for these athletes.
Yeah, going back to our preview, basketball preview, what would you point as the main strength of this year's team? Let's start with you, Chris.
Man, that's going to be a tough one to answer. Obviously it's easy to just go ahead and say defense, right? You're not going to play if you're not a good defender. But I'll try and for the sake of the question, I really do think running in transition is going to be a strength of this team. I was looking at the stats. They actually only had 3 points, 3 fast break points against UCLA. So 57 of their 60 points did come from the half court offense. Which is, I guess in a game like that, that's a good sign to see that the half court offense can find their groove. But I think if they're defending well and they're running with Miles Bird, with BJ, with Sean Newman, with Taj, with these guys that can really assist well, they're gonna score quickly. And I think that's what Dutcher wants, right? Is those kind of grabbing the rebound and scoring in less than 10 seconds and then getting right back on the defensive end. So I think they're gonna slowly get really, really good at that, and they're gonna go from 3 fast break points to 17 to 20 to 25 in a game. So I think that's going to be one of their big keys this season.
Yeah, and the obvious strength that you touched on defense, the other obvious strength we've been talking about so far in this podcast is the depth of this team. But I'm going to take it a little bit further. I think this team's strength, and it's going to be its biggest strength, I think, on the year, is its versatility. The versatility that this team has, the type of lineups that they can play, the type of roles these players can play in the offense, in the defense. Um, this is probably the most versatile San Diego State basketball team in a long time, even more versatile than the 2020 team that went undefeated for a long stretch, more versatile than the Kawhi Leonard teams. The versatility, the people that can play point guard for this squad, Taj, Sean, BJ, Bird can play a little point guard, LZ Harrington, Latrell Davis. Even Reese Dixon Waters, I think he's a good passer, and I think he can produce and run the offense. The type of lineups that San Diego State can put out there, the bigs that they have, Magoon, Heidi, Compton, Odin, Tay Simmons, even Majak, who we haven't really talked about too much. Um, the versatility of this team is outstanding. You can play big lineups. You can play Taj at the one, the two, Bird at the three, Magoon at the four, Heidi at the five, Compton at the five. Even if we want to do a little big kind of small lineup, Magoon at the five, Odin at the four, Bird at the three, Dixon at the two, Taj at the one, or Elsie at the one. The versatility of this is going to be its biggest strength, in my opinion.
Yeah, you stole my answer, Bryant. And I think not just playing big, but like they're athletic too. It's like sometimes when you go big, you lose athleticism, right? But these guys are not. You're not going to lose that with these guys because they're still slender. They're athletic. They have length, long arms. Some of the matchups or the rotations you mentioned would be like everyone on that lineup would have probably a height and length advantage over the guys they go up against, especially in the Mountain West. Um, so I do think that is their greatest strength, and um, because they can throw different matchups at you depending on who they're playing. So yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, 'cause that's something that San Diego State has struggled with in the past, is not having the size everywhere to
Yeah,
match up with particular teams. And now I believe this San Diego State team has the versatility and the players to match up with 90, probably 95% of lineups, 98% of lineups in college basketball. If there's a smaller team, San Diego State can go small with, you know, San Diego State can go BJ, Sean Newman if they got small guards, the team that they play. Or if they got big guards, they got 6'4" or 6'5" guards. All right, San Diego State, let's start Taj, Reese, Bird, you know, plethora of those guys. It's just the ability to match up with different lineups with the team that Coach Dutcher and his staff has assembled is the best that it's been at San Diego State in a long time.
yeah. To flip it around, main weakness of the team. I'll go first, and this is not something we mentioned. This is something we mentioned earlier, and kind of an issue with recent teams is three-point shooting. I'm concerned about the three-point shooting. We talked about how poor it was against UCLA. Um, this team has scorers, but I don't know if they necessarily have really, really good three-point shooters that could shoot 40 plus percent, like a Jordan Shackle, an Adam Seiko, guys like that. And I think for this team to hit a ceiling, they're going to have to uh, find a couple good, consistent three-point shooters all year. So I think that's what I would consider their main weakness. What about you, Chris?
Not yeah, just to bounce off that, not just open 3-point shots, right? They're going to have to hit contested threes because
Yeah,
this conference plays aggressive defense, and they're not, and these guys aren't going to have enough opportunities where they're going to be coming off screens and looking to shoot a wide open three. Those aren't going to really happen. So like what Reese Waters did, against UCLA, he kind of had ISO'd his defender up a little bit and hesitated and hit the three, but
mhm.
the defender was still somewhat there, right? So those are the type of tough threes that they're going to have to make, and they're not good at it. So that's going to have to improve. Um, Free throw shooting, that was something that wasn't good last year. They went 9 for
Yeah,
13 in this game, so they definitely show that they've been working on it a little bit. And I think Farrow making, I don't know if I think he went 2 for 3. Farrow going 2 for 3 was a big sign. I know it's a very small sample size, but seeing
yeah,
him, hit consistent shots. Taj went 4 for 6. Reese is 2 years ago. I think his first missed free throw was in February or March or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
So, he's clearly a bona fide free throw shooter. So if free throw shooting can improve, especially late in the game, I think that's going to be big. Um, so that's going to be, that was a weakness from last year. It's still too early to tell if that's going to be one for this year, but so we'll see what happens. But that's definitely a key for them.
Yeah, I think we all agree that shooting is definitely the team's biggest weakness. And something that us three probably are hoping to see them improve on. But I'm going to add another point. Um, it's actually kind of funny. Last year, going to like a Mesa event, talking with Coach Dave Velasquez. Um, he kind of mentioned that this defense and the type of defense that San Diego State plays, naturally the team's going to foul a lot, and that's another weakness that this team is going to have that most San Diego State teams have. There are going to be games that San Diego State will play where they are going to foul a lot and be in foul trouble, and teams are going to get to the free throw line and have those games where it's like 16 plus free throw attempts, 20 plus free throw attempts. There is a possibility that there are double digit games this year that San Diego State plays where the other team has over 15 to 16 shoot free throw attempts. And that is a weakness because they are free throws. If San Diego State plays a team that is a quality free throw shooting team, they shoot 18 free throws, you just gave them 15 free points. It's going to be a weakness on this team, and that's something that kind of fans have to realize a little bit is there's going to be a lot of fouls called on San Diego State. We're all susceptible to saying, "Oh, refs are bad." Teams playing aggressive, the refs are just calling it.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. They do you having depth helps with foul trouble, because you got guys who can come in, but obviously you still get putting them at the foul line and they're getting free points and you're potentially falling behind with some of your best players not on the court. So yeah, those are all definitely things. And then, we didn't talk about rebounding, but first thing every year Brian Dutcher talks about is we have to rebound um, better than we did last year. So that's another, I think, aspect to see play out.
He's always going to feel that that's a weak point for his
Yeah,
team. Hmm.
yeah,
But I think this team is going to be a good rebounding team. When they're fully healthy, with
yeah.
Heidi McGoon and Farrow and Hoden off the bench, and then we haven't even mentioned Majok much. He's not going to get many minutes.
I
But
don't see him getting on getting
he's not
playing
going to get
time.
many minutes. But you
He's a
know,
year, 2 years away.
Yeah, and I don't want to diminish his future either, but like every year, some new guys are going to be coming in. So like, is he going to get to a point where he's going to be one of those guys that has to play because he's better than guys who came in? I don't know. We haven't seen enough of him to say, well, he has this potential because I don't know. It's hard to
I
say.
didn't I didn't post the video of the meeting that I had with him during media day, but he was getting. I asked him about like with Magoon, right? He's in a very similar position as him, so he talked about a little bit, about how he was getting advice from him and where how he can improve in terms of the on defense, right? Because defense
Hmm.
is what got him, where he had not just his height, but he's actually a very good defender. And so, offense isn't going to be much of his game. So he could be put in situations where, late in the shot clock, he's needed to come in and just play a little bit of defense against a certain big or whatnot. Maybe come in and just get a board. Maybe defend the
Yeah,
inbound pass. Defend the inbound pass. And with that said, like there's going to be small moments where his name may be called. It could be just 15 seconds of game time, but he could come in and play a crucial role for that possession. And you never know if it's a deciding factor for a game. And so, just kind of the stuff we talked about. He was, he seemed that he seemed ready to go, right? If his number is called, he'll be ready to go. But it's not going to happen much. But I do think that he does bring in something similar to Magoon in terms of
yeah.
the defense. So
Let's talk potential. We've talked a lot about the individual guys. Let's talk one potential breakout player. And with the assumption that Miles Bird, Magoon Guath, and Reese Dixon Waters are not eligible because they're already, household names.
mhm.
Other than those three guys, who would be a potential breakout player? Either one of you want to go first?
Go ahead, Brian.
My potential breakout player, Taj DeGorville. And like you said, Andre, about the Swish Pro-Am that happens in San Diego every single year, San Diego State players playing it. I was able to go down and not only watch but commentate some of the
Mhm.
games down there in San Diego, and Taj Taj looks different. Taj in a league with seasoned pros, seasoned overseas guys that are quality pros that have done really good things in some big leagues. He won the MVP in the Swiss League, and he carried his team. He was one of the best players on his team, and he carried his team to the one seed in the Swiss League. And I think he has the potential to be an all Mountain West player this year. And we have hot takes in a minute. I'll give my hot take on that. Um, Taj DeGroville, the way that he passes, the way that he maneuvers the pick and roll, I think he's a lot better shooter than I think we give him credit for. His defense, his IQ, it's just off the charts. He's such a good player. I rave about him.
He's a threat to start, and that's serious. He could be the point guard this season.
And I think he absolutely deserves it, but I think BJ and Sean Newman also deserve it too. To both, like respectful to both of them. I think all three deserve to start, but only one can, or even two for that matter.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was actually going to be mine also, but I'm glad that you got to talk about that because of your experience watching it at the Swiss Pro Am. That I mean that if I didn't even know that he led the team to the one seed like that. That's some good stuff. Were there any other big like names in that tournament? I don't remember who on the team was there.
So on his team in general it was Wayne McKinney, Farrell Compton. There's
Okay.
another
Yeah.
player that plays pro ball overseas, Quincy Farabee.
Okay.
He's really good. Other players of note, Yassine Graham. Obviously, those of us that remember playing Yale and that Danny Wolf team, Yassine Graham was on that team. Other Aztecs of Nathan Mensah played for a little bit. Billy White, obviously Miles played.
Billy White plays every year. That guy loves coming back to San
Yeah,
Diego.
Billy White loves it. New team, kind of a new team played the San Diego Suns. They're kind of a pro team. Um, Here in the States, a lot of guys that play. There's another one that went to Lincoln. He plays pro ball overseas. His name's kind of slipping me right now, but he's a really quality player, really quality guard. So there's quality competition that Taj is playing. Definitely no pushovers.
Yeah, and he was the MVP and where he's playing free, right? And in a position where you're not playing a style like like you would at SDSU, he's playing it different. He's playing more free, right? And that's a good thing. If he's able to play really well in that kind of environment, you know, it just tells you what he can do on a court. And yeah, he's a threat to start at the one. He could be a really good player this year and be one of the better players in the conference. Just for the sake of the conversation, I'm going to go with LZ Harrington. Um, it's tough to know what the minutes are going to look like right now, but he's a threat, and I think that's not a hidden subject at this point. I think he's a serious threat to start or not start, but play serious minutes and he can do it all on offense. He loves the mid range. He says that if he had his option, he would love to, you know, maneuver through the mid range and score from there. He can hit threes. He can drive to the basket. He's also a really good passer, like you said earlier. He reminds you a lot of Taj himself, and so I think there's going to be moments where he's going to score a lot of points, and it's going to be fun to see him coming off the bench. Um, and yeah, he's going to be one of those guys that's going to take minutes off BJ Davis. He's going to take minutes off Miles Bird. He's going to take minutes off Reese Waters. And yeah, he's going to be one of those guys that, when they're going to have to turn to his number sometimes and say, hey, we're going to need some buckets. And like the depth of the team, there's going to be a lot of guys where they're going to need that from. But, he's not shy of that. And he told me that he's been playing, a long time, almost went to Harvard, right? So he's got his head on straight. He definitely he definitely knows what he wants, and I think he's just going to go take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
love LZ Harrington. Uh, just I just love those types of basketball players. I really do.
He's
Just
an
love
old
those
school
types of
vibe.
players.
Him, Taj, and Reese. him, Taj, and Reese all remind me of like an old school type of player where they had the headband, they have the baggy shorts, right? They'll pull up from the mid range. You know,
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
fun
so
to
you guys,
fun to
you
Some
watch.
guys, you
some
guys took
some
both of
Winston
my,
Shepherd.
yeah, you guys took both of my answers, so I'll come up with number three. And I know I was somewhat critical of him earlier in this episode, but I think mine's going to be Pharaoh Compton. As I said, I think the ceiling of this team is reached by Pharaoh reaching his ceiling. And although I'm not sure he can hit that ceiling, I mean, I think he's a guy that could be that breakout player that changes the trajectory of this team to great to possibly elite. So I'm gonna go with him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Pharaoh Compton definitely has that potential to break out because something that Pharaoh also did at the Swiss League, um, he shot threes and made them. There was a
I would love to see that.
there was a game where Pharaoh shot four threes and he went 2 of 4.
Yeah, and
I was genuinely impressed. I walk up to him
was in
after
the
the
corner.
game and I'm like, "Where did that come from?" And
Were
he
they
was
corner
like, "I've
threes?
always had it."
hmm. How's the form?
He's got good shooting for him. It's not crazy looking by like some Nathan Mensah or Skylar Spencer form. No offense to those guys if they're watching this podcast, but not the best shooting forms out of those two.
Where
Yeah,
was he? Where was he making the threes from? Were they corner threes or were they kind of at the top of
Wing
the wings? Okay, so
wing threes.
okay,
So I was genuinely impressed.
that'd be big. I know Miles Heidi's been shooting threes too in practice. I don't know if that's going to be anything we're going to see from him this year,
I
but
think we saw him shoot maybe a couple
had a
last year,
couple.
and they were
Had a
not
couple.
good.
He
Which
made
means
one last year.
Did he make one?
He made one last year, top of the key.
Yeah,
if Heidi's attempting a few a game, then Farrow's going to attempt a few throughout the season. So hey, if
yeah.
he starts making them early on, then we'll see what his game can expand to. If he can just limit the fouls on defensive end, I think he could be a monster player. I mean, clearly when he's got the ball in the paint, he's a force down there. It's going to be tough to stop him. So and he cuts to the basket really well. That's another thing that I noticed from him too.
His IQ just, and I feel like that's something like he kind of like has and also developed playing with Taj because like they played ball together growing up, and he always kind of knew, playing with Taj, be ready for the ball on the cut, be ready for a lob. Like
Yeah, they had a lot of lobs last year, the two of them.
I think that
Um,
was asked after the game. I think one of the student media guys asked Taj, his relationship with Farrell, and when it comes to like assisting and going to him a lot and looking for his number. So yeah, they've got good chemistry together. It
now
seems like they could just throw it off the backboard to him. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that can jump higher than Farrell on the team. I don't think Miles can jump higher than Farrell.
he's electric. He
Yeah.
just he just brings an energy to him, which now brings us to
yeah, the
hot
hot take.
takes. Hot takes. Chris, I went first for potential breakout players, so I will let you go first for hot takes. It can be a player on the team, can be a team, be for the conference, or it can be all three.
All right. If we're gonna go super hot take. Um, yeah, this is gonna be a tough one. I don't know if it's gonna be too much of a hot take. One of mine was that I think Reese Waters is gonna lead the team in scoring. Don't think that's gonna be too much of a hot take, but I'll go with the team one. I think this team is gonna make a run. They obviously have been doing it the last few years, but I think this is a Sweet 16 or minimum team this year. I think this team is going to have a serious uh, opportunity. I don't know if they win the Mountain West, which I do think they will. Right? I think they have a good shot to win the Mountain West Conference tournament. I'm just looking ahead at seeding. I think they're going to be one of those teams like they saw the last few years where they're going to have like a 5 seed, potential 4 seed, and I think they're going to make an Elite Eight run. I think it's not so much of a hot take really with this team, but I really do think that we're gonna see some greatness out of this team this year. And I think Reese Dixon Waters is going to lead them in scoring, and he's going to kind of establish himself as that guy. Like, hey, you guys all voted me to be a Mountain West first team player. It didn't work out, but he's still that guy. And I think that they're gonna not go as far as he takes them, but he's gonna be a big reason as to why they make an Elite Eight run this year.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like in public media perception, and in the US media perception, that's definitely a hot take. If you are somebody that is big time in the college basketball and covers all basketball uh, teams and college basketball teams, that's not the first time I've seen that take. That is not the first time. I've seen it by multiple people, college basketball group chats I'm in, multiple people that do analytics for college basketball that have said, watch out for San Diego State as a team that could make a run in the tourney this year to not just the Sweet 16, but beyond the Sweet 16. So for some people, that's not a hot take. For some people, that's not a hot take at all.
Dutcher's proven it. I don't remember. I saw it recently, but there's only a few coaches that have more wins in the tournament than him since like 2020. So I think it's Florida or and obviously UConn, but there's just a few. So he's when it comes to those kind of environments, he knows how to win, and there's no better coach to have for this team. They're gonna get there. I think they really are.
And now I'm gonna go with player, team, and conference. Player hot take. Reese Dixon Waters is going to win Mountain West Player of the Year in the conference. People think it's going to be Miles Bird. People think it's going to be Mason Foslev of Utah State. I think it's going to be Reese Dixon Waters because I think he's the best player on this basketball team. He can score at all three levels. He can score at the three. He can score off the dribble. He can attack the basket. He can hit the pull up mid range. Something we did not talk about that I want to bring up. His defense impressed me a lot against UCLA, going up against Sky Clark and Donovan Dent. The way he was moving his feet, he was a lot more laterally quick than I thought he would be coming off of that foot injury that he had last year. Moving his feet very well. He's got quality hands, good hands. There's going to be games this year. I predict he's going to have two games this year where he drops 26 plus points. Because I think he is that good. I think he is that quality of a scorer, and he's a lot better passer than people give him credit for. Reese Dixon Waters to win Mountain West Player of the Year is my player hot take. Team hot take. Don't really know if it's a hot take, really. The team is going to lose only two conference games this year. Two conference games this year, win the conference regular season title, and win the Mountain West tournament title, and have a clean sweep, go into the tournament, make an Elite Eight run, possibly a Final Four run as well. That's my team hot take. Conference hot take, the second best team in the conference is going to be Grand Canyon. It's not going to be Utah State. Grand Canyon is going to be the second best team in the conference with 15 wins, and it's going to be San Diego State, Grand Canyon in the Mountain West tournament game, and San Diego State's going to win. Those are my hot takes.
Who do you think the two losses come from? I'm assuming both road games. So you said two
Two
conference.
losses, two losses come from on the road at Grand Canyon, on the road at Utah State.
Yeah. So you
Those
think
are the two losses.
they went at the Pit in New Mexico this year?
Yes.
Yeah, they struggle at Utah State. That's not it's not hidden anymore. But we'll see what happens this year.
For hot takes, I'm not usually a hot takes guy, but I'll take a stab at it. I'm gonna say Magoon Guath wins Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year in the conference. Both.
Mm-hmm. Back-to-back defensive.
Assuming he's healthy. Assuming he
Assuming
comes
he's
back healthy.
healthy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think they win the conference. Only two losses. It's possible. Maybe a couple more, but I do think they win the conference by two games over the next seed. I think they win the conference. I think they can will win the conference tournament. Um, how far they go into the NCAA tournament is going to depend on matchups and who gets hot. I'd love to sit here and say, yeah, they'll make another run at the Final Four, but you never know. Every year is so different.
call it March Madness for a reason.
So, but yeah, I think they have the potential to go back to the Final Four. Um, and we'll see where they end up.
Which
Any final thoughts from you guys before we close it out? I know we've been going for more than an hour here.
no, we hit
No,
on
we kind of hit on a
everything.
lot of it. Yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
exciting time. Definitely, probably as much hype about a San Diego State basketball team that we've maybe ever had, or at least since we've been, alive and following the team. Um, and so we'll have, there's excitement, there's promise, but once the season starts, that it's reality sets in, and so then we talk about real games and we see real games and we have records and scores and things like that, and we'll have to see how it plays out.
Just a few weeks away until a real game against Long Beach State against Chris Acker.
For a sacker, yeah,
That'll be a fun time to see how he.
and Johnson, right?
DeMarsha Johnson Jr. will be making a homecoming.
Yeah, I'm curious to see whether he's like a starter or someone who's going to be getting heavy playing time because you would think he has that familiarity with Coach Acker, and that was part of maybe the recruitment of transferring there for his final year. But yeah, it'll be good to see him. All right, that's going to do it for us. Hope you guys enjoyed our basketball preview episode. Please hit the subscribe button or like button on your favorite platforms, wherever you're watching or listening to this. We'll be back all season. We still got our football coverage going strong. Obviously, the football team is 5-1, looking to make a play in the Mountain West Conference for the season. Basketball, we'll be looking to do the same. We'll have other sports heating up in the winter and early springtime. So definitely stay tuned for that, and we'll talk to you guys next time. You are listening to the SDSU podcast, presented by the East Village Times, with your host, Andre Hagverdian.